if you're trying to be consistent at anything, what I'm about to tell you in this video will get you results at least 2 times faster than what you normally would. So the thing is, whenever you're trying to build really good habits or get rid of the old ones and basically trying to be consistent at anything, there's this one factor that most people don't realize, and it's kind of a natural thing to realize as well as a humans, like you have to feel that emotion yourself. But the thing is, if you can already see it coming, then you get avoid it completely and just skip that, like you can say, obstacle right from the start. So the thing I'm talking about is none other than pride and thinking that you're better before you've even done anything. So let me explain what exactly it is, and it makes so much sense in just a few minutes. So you've seen an anime, right? Like any kind of shonen anime, the main character is weak, like to some extent, and then he gets a little bit strong, and then he's like that's what main character thinks, like, okay, I've gotten really strong and now I can take on anybody. And they like kind of start slacking in their training a little bit or anything like that, and then they fight a really strong opponent and gets their ass handed to them and basically lose terribly to that opponent. And after that they're like, okay, I'm never gonna be strong, quote unquote strong, it's always I'm gonna be stronger. And they realize that achieving anything or being anything is not a destination, it's a journey. And they can never be objectively like strong unless you're the top in the world, but most of you aren't trying to be that in your good habits, right? Like if you're trying to be if you're trying to practice meditation, you're not trying to become a monk, you're trying to do small bits of meditation to improve your life, most likely, right? Same with the exercise, you're not trying to become the most like bodybuilder, like you're not trying to win Mr. Olympia with exercise. So it's not like you shouldn't be thinking that, okay, I have gotten to this point or I am this right now. It's just dumb to think that way. And the reason why that is because in anime, when that character gets beaten up by the stronger opponent and then they realize like, oh shit, it's not a destination, like I have to keep working on it. In real life it is like, I have a friend who always struggles with being consistent, right? And the thing is, every single time he tries to do something, he hypes himself up and appreciates himself more for doing that thing than the amount that he should be doing. So for example, if I go to the gym and I'm starting gym right like from the start, and I go like 3 days a week. So I shouldn't be overly hyping myself or congratulating myself about like, oh, your boy goes to the gym now. Like, yeah, boy, 3 days a week, let's go. Like that is good. Like to some extent, like you should obviously feel happy about your progress. But the thing is, you probably will feel that anyway, even if you're not like actively thinking about it, and you don't have to even say it, because if you're going to the gym, soon you'll see progress and then you'll feel good anyway. So why do you have to like actively say this thing? Because when you say it like that, it halts your progress like that. And I saw this video of a guy named Patrick David, and he's like a dad and a great businessman, and he has a podcast as well. And he was also saying that every single time when you achieve something in life, never say that I have made it or I have gotten this. Always say I'm just getting started. And that exactly ties into my point of what I'm trying to say, is because you can do anything in the world for like an infinite amount of time basically, but you'll never achieve the true top peak of that. You'll only achieve like what you call true top peak is of that humans in that time. Because if you go back around 100 years ago and there was a guy who thinks he's the strongest man in the world, and he was the strongest man in the world for his time, let's say he like lifted up x amount of kilos, like for reference we can just say he lifted 400 kilos of deadlift, and he thought that he was like really strong and nobody in his time could lift beyond him. But he's not the strongest human in general, because nowadays we have people who can lift 500 kilos for deadlift, and they're stronger than that guy, but they cannot also truly say that we are the strongest humans of all time, because most likely in the future, in the ever so continuing future, we'll probably see someone who can lift even beyond that. So it's always a journey. Even if you practice that thing 1,000 times or you're doing it for your life, it's always a journey. It's never about that, okay, I have done this. Because let me tell you something, that if you want to think like that, okay, I have done anything like this, then you should not think like that before at least you're 80 years old. Because after 80, like, even if you lose everything and you start going on a decline, you'll probably die before reaching your, like, true bottom. So you can think like that once you're old and you're crippled and things like that, but beyond, before that, when you can actually progress on anything in general, like, there's no point in thinking like that. And there's also that thing, like, if you can relate it with anime as well, this happens in every single anime. Like with Naruto, I'm pretty sure, like, when he trains with Jiraiya and he's like, okay, I'm still weak, then he has to, when there's war happening, he goes back to another training camp when he realizes, okay, there are still more tougher opponents to beat. Same thing, like in Dragon Ball Z, this happens like literally all the time. They're training regardless of what they're feeling weak or not. But in but in One Piece, this is like really really prominent, because if any of you have watched One Piece, Luffy is strong for most of that period of time, like before, like Sabodi arc, where he's like, where there's a time skip. Before that, he's probably fought with everyone. He has some hard fights, but he thinks like, okay, I'm still capable. But the whole point of that arc was to make Luffy and his crew realize that they're still weak. Like, humble, like, bring yourself down a little bit. You're not ready for the actual challenges of the world. So keep working. And then when you get strong, then you realize that there are even more levels to this, and you just have to keep getting strong. And you can say that you have to keep doing that unless the only competition is yourself. Like, you can have, like, some people have this mindset that the you versus you, or you're only competing against yourself, which is fine, but this only works if you're not a lazy person. But because the thing is, if you're a lazy person, right, and you don't go to gym at all, and then you go to the gym for once in 2 weeks, and then at the same time there's your friend who goes like 5 days a week. So the thing is, of course there's like progress, and like everyone can find relatability to their level. Like, they have to progress from where they are and not exactly go like 5 days a week all the time and things like that. But the thing is, mentally, if they're trying to compare with themselves, they'll probably think like, okay, I went once in the last 2 weeks and I'll try to go twice in these 2 weeks. And if they're like undisciplined because they're not doing anything, then they'll probably miss that day as well and go back to square one. So I think for these kind of individuals, comparison with another person is way better. And that's why it's also important to have friends, because you always have someone to have a healthy competition with. And especially for me, because I realized that like, trying to earn money at a young age, like, if I didn't have that one friend who I was trying to compete with, and I was kind of impressed with as well, that he was like doing small things and like small jobs, even though he had some like connections, but he was doing that since way back then I started. And I always had that competition with him, like, I'll also make one day, and we both have this kind of thing going, that we'll be successful one day, inshallah. And that's the whole point, that if you want to be consistent at anything, don't make anything, like, you can set goals, of course. Like, for me right now, my goal is to get down and cut my weight to around 60 kgs. But after I go there back to 60 kgs, I'm not going to think at all that, okay, I have done, like, I am, like, I have achieved everything in life that I wanted to be. No, you can have short term goals, but it's never like, you'll never be, don't use adjectives. That's what I have to tell you. Always use comparative adjectives. So for example, you can never say I am strong, or you can never say that I am rich. You can say I have become stronger, or I have become richer. It's always the mind, and it's always like how you speak things. Like, it's way more important than anybody realizes. So that's what I would tell you, is that always have a relative, like, always compare yourself. Don't say that I have done everything else. And that's the biggest reason that I see people for not being consistent. So the thing is, just always compare yourself to someone. That can be you or anybody else, but never say that you have objectively become that thing. So that's it from me today. Let me know if you agree with this concept at all, or if you have any criticism for me or any questions for me as well. I'll be answering every single one of them, and I'll see you next time.